Okay, good. Hey, well, good day, everyone. Philippines, it's good to see that you're not underwater. So thank you for joining us. I heard there's a massive typhoon. So our prayers are with you. We are also getting slammed by, or we're getting slammed by a massive, we call them hurricanes, which hit the East Coast, and it's not good, major flooding. So anyway, much is afoot in nature. But I welcome everybody to the call. I see Emma. She's probably driving. I have Alina. Edgar's here. Woohoo! Sonata. Excellent. Chucky is here. Nice. DeVow. Morning. Or afternoon. Yeah, it'd be morning, I think. Or night. Whatever. Nighttime. Well, welcome anyway. We're going to talk about the book we've been working our way through. And I'm going to be brief today. So you're like, yeah. And I'm not talking about character anymore. If you listen to the last 3 recordings on character, good. If you didn't, go back and listen to them because they're very important aspects of our book, Developing the Leader Within You 2.0. We're going to go to a very simple chapter. This can apply tangentially to some of you as you're moving up and working as leaders in your community and at LGFG. So listen to what I share from the chapter, and then you can adapt it to your world. But this is all about creating positive change. Okay, so creating positive change, real simple. It's about developing the change agent in you as a leader. And what's cool at LGFG is that you have a great ability to influence the culture and the environment at our company. Would you say that's true? Those of you that I can see your face, yes, you can have an idea and get it to Dimitri and he can go, that's a good idea. There's all kinds of new things that are afoot. So you have to be ready for change at the company. And you can help create that. Yeah, I mean, there are electronic hot lists. There are cigar companies going out of business. Woo! There are new receipt brochures, LGFG socks, this automated update email for clients now. So that's, everything's cool, everything's happening, but you've got to be able to jump into change. And oftentimes, if you're a leader, lead that change. So that's what we'll talk about. I was poor at this in my previous life. I tried to make change through force at my previous company as I got into high-level meetings, executive meetings, and was just upset most of the time. Some of you have heard that story that I actually had printed on my business card. I changed my title to Corporate Anarchist. Yeah, so I was just going to change the culture of our 150-year-old company by telling everyone at the top that we were dinosaurs and we needed to change and get out of Jurassic Park and do something new, and it was the wrong way to go. So here's a better way. We'll talk first about why change is difficult. I'll give you a few thoughts on that and then give you a little acrostic to work with. So you need a piece of paper or very good visual. Why is change difficult if you're creating change at the company or in your community or at your church? Well, number one, people feel awkward and self-conscious doing something new, right? We all like routines, and so we get in a good mojo, good mood, good flow. We kind of tend to stick with that, and sometimes we feel awkward about making changes. Usually, people just initially focus on what they have to give up, and that's sometimes hard to do. Emerson, an American philosopher, said, for everything you gain, you lose something. And sometimes that's good, but it is hard. And Maxwell says, our brains are like closets, you know? Over time, they're filled with things we no longer use, right? Things that, like clothes that don't fit anymore. Every once in a while, you need to get in your closet or your brain and clean things out. Would you agree with that? I mean, we love to learn stuff and use it, and we get good at it, and then sometimes we have too much, and it's like going through a buffet, and we keep adding things to our plate, and then suddenly it's falling off the sides, and we have too much food, and we can't afford it, or we overeat. So that's what we call a mixed metaphor, from closets to buffet lines. Okay, I've confused you. That's fine. Here's another reason that change is difficult. People are afraid of being made fun of. So that's another point in Maxwell's book. He also says another reason is people personalize change, and they may feel a little bit alone in the process. So change is all about process and how you manage the process. So what I want you to do, if you have a piece of paper, for the next little quick section of our talk, I want you to write down vertically, plan ahead, those words, P-L-A-N-A-H-E-A-D. So plan ahead, because we're going to write a little something with each letter. Okay? So obviously, as we spoke yesterday with Chinda was on the line, and he thought this was useful because he is now moving offices. So these letters, these suggestions under plan ahead were perfect for what he was doing, made him kind of think through what he needs to do. So let me go through that. And if you're following along in the book, this is on page 93. So P, under your plan ahead, is predetermine the change that's needed. Predetermine the change that's needed. Okay, so you need to kind of think through in detail what that will entail. Okay, thinking is important. L, under plan, says lay out the steps. Maxwell says lay out the steps. Write out all the steps that are needed to complete the change. Okay, so if you're doing something big that's going to impact the whole company, or you need to think through, okay, who's going to be influenced by this? Who's going to be impacted? Who's going to be for it? Who's going to be against it? Those are good things to think about. A, I should do my hands that match kind of like letters. A stands for adjust your priorities. Adjust your priorities. What priorities have got to be changed to align everyone? This is my hand signal for align. Whenever you see me do this, I've noticed that when I say the word align, I'm always doing this. Align. Okay, good. Soon we'll be able to do these calls without audio. I'll just do sign language. It'll be great. N. N stands for notify key people. Who are the key people you've got to talk to first? You know, in my previous career at Southwestern, I found I got to be much better at notifying key people. I would always go to the key players and get them on my side and sell them on an idea or a change, and then bring it to the meeting. Because I knew that if I tried to suggest something or make a change, and these key voices didn't go, that's a good idea, then it was dead, okay? So notify key people. Get their input on your change. All right, that's the word plan. Now we're going to move down to ahead. 8, A stands for, the next A is allow time for acceptance. Allow time for acceptance. When you're making a change, it's just gonna, there's always people that are not happy. Even though it's a cool thing, they're just like, I don't know if this is gonna work. So allow time, you know, be patient with them. A lot of folks need to process the process. So just give them a chance to do that. Okay, good. Moving on, H. Under ahead, H stands for head into action. So maybe write out the first action steps that need to happen initially and how they will impact your team or your office. All right, but head into action, take action. And this is a good thing too. E stands for expect problems. Expect problems. Whenever there is change, there's going to be a problem. So whenever you try to implement something new, describe, okay, what could go wrong here besides who will object? But try to head that off at the pass. Next, A. We're getting toward the end of plan ahead. A stands for always point to successes. And you guys, I think, do that, don't you? Normally when we start meetings, there's some good news involved. Yeah? When Dimitri sends out emails, there's like good news, or there's recognition. So if you're doing change at any level, you want to share good news right off the bat. Okay, so make sure when you start a meeting, besides having some music and making sure everybody's in the right mental state, you're also sharing what is happening with the change, especially your successes. All right, So point to those successes always. And then D, the last letter on this page, is daily review your progress, which is kind of a weird way to make a sentence. I would say review your progress daily, but it wouldn't make sense with plan ahead. Duh. So we are going to just follow what it says. Review your progress. Okay, how are we doing? How fast is the change taking place? Okay, now some of you listen to that little section and you're like, doesn't apply to me. Okay, that's fine. At some point, you may not be instituting massive institutional change or organizational change or some new system to the IT team, but that's fine. Use it later when you're thinking about life and other ways. All right, now here's my last point I want to make, and listen to this. He refers back to one of the 21 laws of leadership, because he says to do this, the most important word in change is credibility. If you want to create positive change, you have to, as a leader, be credible. So if you recall, if you were with us during our 21 laws of leadership, there's one law called the law of buy-in, B-U-Y-N, buy-in. So your ability to create change will depend on whether people buy into you as a leader. Remember? Does that make sense? And if you want to move up and have more responsibility or get a new title or anything as far as growth goes, remember, management, upper management, promotes people it likes and people that are doing a good job. They have to buy into you, right? So the people on your team, if you're taking a leadership role, people have to buy into the leader first and then the vision, okay? So if, this goes back to character. So sorry, we're doing that, but I have to. If you remember Stephen Covey, in all of his writings, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he says that everybody has an emotional bank account. Most people have a physical bank account with money, and you deposit and you take money out. But Maxwell has the same idea in his book as Covey about emotional bank accounts, but he calls it something a little bit different. He says that leaders have to have change in their pocket, like emotional change, to make change. Okay, so what does he mean by that? You need to take stock of your personal influence. He calls it, like, instead of an emotional bank account, he calls it emotional bargaining chips. Okay, so if you're in a credit balance with your team, and you do something good or something that benefits the team, then you get more change in your pocket. Does that make sense? If you do something negative or stupid or you hurt someone's feeling, that costs you change. That change is removed from your pocket. So you have to. We're talking about the same thing. Covey says emotional bank account. Maxwell says, emotional bargaining chips. But this is all about the law of buy-in, and people have to buy into you. So always keep that in mind. It takes a long time to build up credits with people, and you can make mistakes. As long, I had a lot of change with my marketing team. When I was director of marketing, it went well. So sometimes I could make mistakes or say something stupid, and they wouldn't all say, "That's it, I quit, I'm gone." They were a pretty cohesive group because I spent time working on those relationships. It all comes back to that. All right. So if you want to make change, you got to have change, and if you want to create positive change, then it helps that people look to you and respect you, and also buy into you as a person. All right, so that's my final big point. And you're like, great, well, that's simple to understand. I'm going to give you 2 quotes because to me, they could be useful and exciting. First, from the world of literature, Leo Tolstoy. Some of you are familiar with old Leo. He said this: everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself. That's where change starts. And that's totally true. We've always got to work on ourselves. I used to know a guy way back in university who was very left-leaning, very liberal, like I'm going to change the world, save the environment. He was always like protesting things and spray painting walls and being generally against, raging against the machine and whatever. And then he didn't ever clean up his room and he never paid his rent. So I'm like, you know what? You have no credibility. I do not buy into your causes or you, because you're not even taking care of your own little private world here, even though you want to change the world. You got to start with yourself, man. Come on. So Tolstoy, everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing him or herself. So do that. All right, last quote. Back to the roots of St. Augustine. This is, wow, back in the 1400s. But Augustine said this: if you would attain to what you are not yet, you must always be displeased by what you are. For where you are pleased with yourself, there you have remained. You're stuck. He says, keep adding, keep walking, keep advancing. So let me repeat that, because it's weird. If you would attain to what you are not yet, you must always be displeased by what you are. For where you are pleased with yourself, there you have remained. You're fat and happy. So keep adding, keep walking, keep advancing. St. Augustine. There you go. Okay, that's it. I'm done. You have other things to do. So ponder that and go, well, that doesn't really apply to me at the moment, but it might, especially this law of buy-in and credibility. All right? So it's been great. It's been short. We're going to do it again next week. If you guys want to show up, I would appreciate it. Next week is the quickest way to gain leadership. It's through Chapter 5, Problem Solving. Ooh, very good. All right. Thanks for tuning in. I'll tune out. See you.